staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is all there is. Not in a poetic way, not in a dramatic, movie script kind of moment. Just a quiet, suffocating question that comes after too many nights of nothing going right. That's how it began for him. Let's call him Daniel. Daniel wasn't extraordinary. In fact, that's what made his story so powerful. He was painfully ordinary. He wasn't the guy who dropped out of Harvard to build a startup. He wasn't the guy with a rock-bottom drug story and a cinematic redemption arc. He was just 27 years old, no career, no vision, no real passion. The kind of existence where waking up felt more like a continuation of numbness than the beginning of a new day. He lived in a small apartment that still smelled faintly of the couple who lived there before him. The walls were off-white, not by design, just from years of forgotten maintenance. A single bed, a desk, a dying plant he forgot to water, and a pile of clothes that moved from bed to chair and back again. His fridge had eggs, ketchup, and expired yogurt. That was a metaphor for his life. Really, potential spice, and something long past its expiration. He had friends, sure, but the kind of friends who asked, "How are you?" without expecting a real answer. He had a phone full of contacts, but couldn't remember the last time someone called him just to talk. His last relationship had ended 6 months ago. She told him she felt like she was dating a ghost. "You're here," she said, "but you're not here." He didn't even argue because she was right. He didn't know who he was anymore. Part 2, drifting without anchor. Daniel's days blurred. He'd wake up at noon because he had nothing to do in the morning. His job was gone, cutbacks, they said, but he knew it was because he had stopped showing initiative. Not intentionally, he just didn't have any more to give. He'd sit at his desk and open job sites, scrolling mindlessly, not applying, just looking. The way someone walks through a grocery store without a list, knowing they'll probably leave with nothing. Afternoons were worse. That's when the sun lit his apartment in a way. That made the mess more obvious. Dust, dishes, disarray. He couldn't even blame the world. That was the hardest part. It wasn't like someone had ruined his life, it was just him. And the weight of that truth sat in his chest like a stone. He tried watching self-help videos, motivational speeches, morning routines of billionaires. Nothing stuck. He didn't need to be told to hustle. He needed something deeper. He needed meaning. Part 3, the chance encounter. One cold evening, Daniel left his apartment just to walk. He didn't have a destination, he just needed to move, hoping motion might stir something in him. Have you ever sat alone in the middle of the night? The city was busy, but he wasn't part of it. People passed him by like shadows. He walked with his hands in his coat pockets, head down, until a sudden gust of wind pushed open the door of a used bookstore. He wouldn't have noticed if the chime hadn't rung. Instinctively, he stepped inside. It was warm, quiet, smelled like paper and old wood. He didn't read much, hadn't in years, but something about the silence made him stay. He walked between shelves aimlessly, fingers brushing dusty spines. And then, thud, a small book fell from a shelf. He bent down. The cover was faded, cracked. A title in gold lettering, Meditations, Marcus Aurelius. He almost put it back, almost, but then he opened it to a random page and read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." He stared. Read it again. Then again. His throat tightened. He sat down in the nearest chair and kept reading. Part 4, Discovering Stoicism. Daniel took the book home. That night he read until 3 a.m. He didn't understand all of it. The language was old, the references strange. But it felt true. Every word was like a whisper from a wiser version of himself. He learned that Marcus Aurelius wasn't just a writer. He was a Roman emperor. A philosopher king, writing not to impress but to survive. His meditations weren't meant for the world. They were private reflections, reminders to himself on how to stay calm amidst chaos. Daniel was hooked. The next morning, for the first time in months, he set an alarm. Woke up, made coffee, sat at his desk, and read another passage. He started writing too, just a few lines, thoughts, questions, reactions. He read about Epictetus, who was born a slave and became a teacher of wisdom. He read Seneca, who taught that wealth meant nothing without peace. He learned that Stoicism wasn't about suppressing emotion, but about not letting emotion rule you. That suffering wasn't the enemy. Attachment to how things should be was. He'd always thought strength meant having it all together, But Stoicism taught that strength was choosing calm in the middle of not knowing. Part 5. The first real change. Daniel didn't announce his transformation to the world. There was no social media post, no bold resolution, no New Year, New Me nonsense. It started quietly. He made his bed every morning, not because someone told him to, but because it reminded him that he could begin. He kept the Stoic book on his desk, dog-eared, highlighted, scribbled in, and slowly, imperceptibly at first, he noticed something. His reactions began to change. When a friend forgot to return a call, he didn't spiral into insecurity. He shrugged, thought, "Not in my control," and went on with his day. When he ran out of money and had to cancel plans, he didn't make excuses or feel ashamed. He told the truth. And oddly, his friend respected him more for it. He wasn't becoming invincible. He was becoming steady. That was new. Part 6. Facing the mirror. One morning, Daniel stood in front of his bathroom mirror and didn't look away. He used to avoid mirrors. They reminded him of what he hadn't become. But this time was different. He looked into his own eyes and asked, "What do you control?" Not in a hopeless way. In a stoic way. It became a ritual. Every day a new question. What is truly up to me? What emotions am I allowing to control me? Am I choosing my response or reacting out of habit? He wasn't chasing positivity. He was chasing clarity. Because Stoicism doesn't promise happiness. It promises sovereignty over your mind. That's what Daniel was beginning to feel. Like the king of a tiny kingdom, his own thoughts. Part 7. How it changed his friendships. Daniel's friendships had once been built on convenience, proximity, habit. But something strange started happening. He began to lose friends. Not because of drama, but because he stopped pretending. When a friend vented for the 5th time about a toxic relationship, Daniel didn't nod and agree. He said calmly, "You know what you need to do. You're just afraid to do it." That friend didn't call him for weeks. Another friend tried to drag him into gossip. But Daniel replied, "If we wouldn't say it to them, let's not say it at all." He wasn't judging, just refusing to feed the noise. And slowly some people drifted away, but others came closer. People who respected silence. People who asked questions and actually listened. Daniel wasn't building a circle. He was building a citadel, a space of truth, calm, and depth. Part 8. Relationships and the art of letting go. Before Stoicism, Daniel clung to love. He saw relationships as a life raft, something to save him from loneliness. He dated to be validated, to be seen, and every breakup shattered him because his identity was wrapped up in being wanted. But now he approached love differently. He still felt, he still cared, but he no longer needed someone to fix him. He didn't send late-night texts out of desperation. He didn't chase people who were uncertain about him. He practiced the Stoic ideal of amor fati, love of fate. He accepted what came and let go of what didn't stay. When he met someone new, he was present but not possessive. He didn't perform. He simply was. And because of that, his connections grew deeper, faster, not built on dependency, built on mutual respect and inner stability. Part 9. Meeting her. It wasn't a movie moment. No sparks flying, no dramatic music. Just two people at a mutual friend's small gathering, talking about books, sharing stories, laughing at the same dry jokes. She noticed something in him, a calmness, a quiet strength. She said later, "You're the first man I've met who doesn't need me to feel whole." That hit him, because he remembered the old version of himself, the one who would have attached instantly, molded himself into whatever she wanted. But now he let things unfold. He didn't try to impress her. He just showed up fully, authentically, stoically. She found it rare, magnetic, and slowly, naturally, they began to build something real. His career transformation. Deeper Stoic practices like journaling, reflection, death awareness, major life tests, and how he stayed composed. How Stoicism permanently reshaped his view of success, love, and meaning. Great, let's continue the story. Part 10. Stoicism in the workplace. Daniel hadn't worked in months. At first, that terrified him. But now, with Stoicism in his mental toolkit, he approached it differently. He asked himself, what's in my control? Not whether someone would hire him, not the state of the job market, but his effort, his clarity, his direction. He stopped applying blindly. He made a list of things he actually cared about: writing, communication, quiet thinking, helping people make sense of chaos. Then he asked, how can I bring value using those skills? The answer wasn't obvious, but he kept looking. Eventually, he came across a small startup, an education platform needing someone to write and manage content. It wasn't glamorous. The pay was modest, but something felt aligned. He applied, got the interview, and for the first time he didn't walk in trying to be who they wanted. He walked in as himself. Calm, clear, direct. They hired him on the spot. Part 11. Stoicism meets chaos. Work wasn't peaceful. Startups are messy. People are unpredictable. Deadlines pile up. But Stoicism wasn't something Daniel left at home. He brought it with him. When his manager lashed out unfairly over a missed detail, Daniel didn't snap back. He paused, breathed, then replied, I understand your frustration. I'll own my part and fix it. Later, his manager apologized, said it was rare to meet someone who stayed cool under fire. When coworkers gossiped, Daniel excused himself. When projects failed, he focused on learning, not blaming. Every moment became a chance to practice, to test the philosophy. He realized Stoicism wasn't about appearing stoic. It was about choosing your power when others gave theirs away. Part 12. The Stoic Journal. One night after work, Daniel sat down with a pen and a blank notebook. He wrote, what did I do today that I regret? He answered honestly. Then, what did I do today that showed virtue, courage, discipline, wisdom, justice? Again, he answered. This became his nightly ritual, not for performance, not for productivity, for clarity. The Stoics believed that the unexamined life was a fog. Journaling was their compass. It helped Daniel notice patterns, emotional triggers, wins worth celebrating. He began to understand that change doesn't happen in big, dramatic leaps, but in small, consistent shifts in awareness. The journal became a mirror, and every day he became a little more aligned with the man he wanted to be. Part 13. Momentum and Stillness. By now things looked better. Daniel had income, a partner, a growing sense of purpose. But that's when life tested him. One Friday morning he got a call. His father, who he hadn't spoken to in years, had a stroke. They were never close. His father had been cold, distant, often angry. Daniel wrestled with it. Old him would have avoided it, or gone in blind rage. But now he paused, asked himself, what is the virtuous thing to do? He flew out, sat by his father's hospital bed, said little, just held space. When his father finally opened his eyes, they shared a moment, not of apology, but of presence. Later, his father whispered, I was hard on you. I didn't know better. Daniel nodded, not with resentment, but with understanding. He wasn't carrying anger anymore. Stoicism had taught him, people act from what they know. To hate is to carry their fire inside you. He left the hospital lighter, not because things were fixed, but because he had chosen grace. Part 14. The Inner Citadel. By now, Daniel had built what the Stoics called the inner citadel, a mental fortress of strength, reason, and peace. Not perfect, but grounded. He didn't fear bad news. He didn't chase constant highs. He lived with intention. He read Marcus Aurelius, not just for wisdom, but as a reminder that even an emperor needed grounding. He memorized lines that helped him through storms. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. The obstacle on the path becomes the path. These weren't just words. They were blueprints. Part 15. Building a New Life. 3 years passed. Daniel had changed, not by becoming someone else, but by peeling away everything that wasn't him. He had savings now, a minimalist apartment, bookshelves lined with philosophy, poetry, and journals full of self-inquiry. He and his partner had grown together, not in fantasy, but in depth. They had disagreements, but they navigated them with respect. Because Daniel no longer tried to win arguments, he tried to understand. And because of that, love wasn't a battlefield, it was a practice. The next parts will cover mentoring others and becoming a guide, the Stoic approach to mortality, a life-altering decision he must make, how he handles success and failure differently now, the final challenge that tests everything, Perfect, let's continue. Part 16, the student becomes a teacher. By now, Daniel's life had grown quiet, but meaningful. He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. But people began to notice something in him. Calm in meetings, fair under pressure, unshaken in conversations where others panicked. Coworkers started asking questions. How do you stay so centered? What do you read? How do you deal with stress like that? At first, Daniel shrugged it off. Then one day, a younger colleague, burned out and anxious, asked if they could grab coffee. That one coffee turned into a weekly conversation. Not therapy, not advice, just sharing the Stoic lens. The art of distinguishing what's in your control. The practice of writing down your emotions before they control you. The power of choosing your response moment to moment. Word spread. He wasn't trying to be a guru. He just lived it, and others felt that. So Daniel created a group, small, quiet, invitation only. They met once a week. No hype, no branding. Just people who wanted to grow. That's how he learned the greatest impact isn't made by preaching, but by practicing. Part 17, the final Stoic lesson, Memento Mori. Then came the day everything stopped. Daniel's mother called. Cancer, terminal. He flew home, sat by her side, held her hand. There were no motivational speeches, no false hope, just presence. She said, "I'm not afraid to go. I'm afraid to miss you." He replied, "You'll still be with me, just not in the way we're used to." They didn't waste time pretending. They cried, they laughed, they remembered. And when she passed, Daniel stood by the window of her hospital room and whispered, "Memento Mori, remember you must die," not as a threat, as a teacher. The Stoics didn't fear death. They studied it, because to remember death is to cherish life. Daniel grieved, but with grace. He didn't run from sorrow. He let it wash through him. And then he lived. Part 18, success without ego. Months later, his writing group grew into something more. A podcast, an online journal, a quiet community of people drawn to his stillness. Sponsors reached out, money followed. Then a book deal. Suddenly, the man who once sat on the edge of his bed in despair was now someone others looked to for guidance. And yet none of it changed him. Because Stoicism had already taught him, success is not virtue, popularity is not peace, status is not strength. He lived simply, gave generously, stayed behind the scenes. Fame didn't matter, freedom did. Part 19, the final test. 5 years after it all began, Daniel stood at a crossroads. His partner had been offered a position abroad, an opportunity of a lifetime. They both wanted to go, but leaving meant giving up the community he'd built, the routines, the familiarity, and he found fear creeping in again. The old fear of uncertainty, of change, of loss. But now he knew what to do. He sat down, opened his journal, wrote, "I don't control what will happen. I control how I meet it." And under that, the obstacle becomes the way. So they packed their things, hugged friends, took one last walk through the neighborhood, and they left, together. Part 20, the man who chose peace. Now you might be asking, did Stoicism fix everything? No, it didn't make life easy. It didn't erase pain. It didn't protect him from loss or hardship or anxiety. But it gave him something better, clarity. When things went wrong, he didn't ask, "Why me?" He asked, "What can I do with this?" When people hurt him, he didn't retaliate. He asked, "What part of me is still reactive?" When he faced loss, he remembered, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do, say, and think. He wasn't fearless. He was just grounded. And in that grounding, he found something rare. Stillness. Part 21, what about you? If you've watched this far, maybe you're where Daniel was. Tired, numb, searching for something more than get rich or get attention. Maybe you want peace that doesn't depend on your circumstances. Maybe you want to stop reacting and start responding. Maybe you want to build your own inner citadel. Start small. Read one passage of Marcus Aurelius. Write one line in a journal tonight. Ask, what did I do today that made me proud? Then ask, what can I improve without self-hate? And keep going. Because this isn't a story about Daniel. It's a story about you. And the fact that you're still here means you're already on the path. With that said, thanks for watching. And until next time.